Hi, friends, cosmic friends. Welcome back to the Cosmic Adults. We are here, Mercedes and Ian, coming at you in your ears. Slash, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see us. Ian is on a beach currently.
Just recording from beach.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is like I would, I might even do it. I might even do a recording from a beach, you know, anytime soon. It's not too
I
far
think
from here.
I think you should do that. I think that that's a fantastic freaking idea.
Awesome.
Yeah. We were
Okay.
kind of just talking before we started this recording, actually about like where we're from, which is
Mm,
interesting. I don't think we've really talked about that on here. So, like, do you
mm-mm.
want to kind of talk about like where you're from, Ian? Because
Oh yeah, sure.
a lot of people ask me, and I'm like, well,
I'm from a little place called Estonia, and I was born in a place or city called Tallinn, which is the capital of Estonia. But when I say capital in like a city by world standards, it would be like a suburb, like a small suburb, because it's so small compared to everything else. But it's a small country. It's a very extremely beautiful, exquisite nature is still there remaining, luckily, and a lot of me loves that country to bits. Part of me is like, I know some of the energy there, but like the people there have so many gifts, and they're, I would say, hidden. A lot of those gifts are
hmm,
hidden, and we're kind of like, I would say Estonians are very mostly behind the scenes kind of workers and people. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, the wars and the controlling of other nations of our
mhm.
um, people, and it's a strange little place in Europe.
Do you think that you've sort of made it out of that way of thinking, like out of that?
I've had to do a lot of work on myself because I noticed when I started even doing this type of work and putting myself out there more, kind of like podcasting,
Hmm.
videos, YouTube, all of that stuff. That's not a very Estonian thing to do. It's getting there now. Estonians are doing it now.
Hmm.
Obviously, they're understanding how the importance of it. But it's also like I think it wasn't there a little while ago, and I had to, and I still find myself, even as when I start to talk about Estonia, it's still like small, and we're kind of hidden, and slavery and blah blah. It's not amazing things because a little no less known fact about Estonia. There's a lot of talk in the United States about slavery and how it was abolished, and the remnants of it are still there. But
Hmm.
nobody really talks about the slavery here in Europe, and us Estonians, we were enslaved by Germans, the Russians. We can go even further. So
Whoa.
yeah,
I didn't know that at all.
so that's crazy. And my great great grandfather basically had to, you know, because he was so smart. I love this story. He had to. He was smarter, let's say, than maybe some of the other farmers, and he had the wits to I don't know, make something of himself, and he had to buy some of his freedom from the German landowners who were basically
Mm.
enslaving Estonian people during that time. And there, I won't go too deeply into that story. And then the Russians came. It's just not the best of times. But
Hmm.
we as a people, we've been just ravished by other nations like Sweden, Denmark, Russians especially, Germans especially. It's been a quite a heavy. And if you take all of those years, and it's been hundreds of years, if not thousands, we can put there. If you take that and you've been controlled by other nations and other people constantly, that is in your consciousness. That is in your, and it will stick to your
Totally.
energy, and you have to
It's
get
in your
out of it.
DNA.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
And
like
you
in your genetics.
and you have to get out of it. And I've noticed myself being in that kind of like, oh, kind of like putting myself down and putting myself as a small, as a small
Yeah.
person. And I had to dig really deep to get, or at least start to get out of it. And I think it's run so
Mhm.
deep, you need years and years to fully come out of it.
Yeah. What do you, if you had to say, like, what do you think was the main thing you had to work on to get out of it? Was there like a keystone thing that you were like, oh my God?
Like hiding myself. So this is a very
Oh.
personal story. I can tell a personal story because during the Second World War, so what happened here in Estonia, unfortunately, was the Russian regime, which is, I see, unfortunately, I just want to mention that the Russian regime, even right now, I see people like, oh, Putin is saving the West, or like saving the boundaries and restoring the boundaries. Not for us, not for Estonians. The Russian regime has done basically nothing but bad things to us. Only bad things. We don't want them there. We don't want them. Crazy things. So what happened during the Second World War was the Russian regime basically took all the people who were smart, intellectual, or rich, and um, basically kidnapped them and brought them or took them to Siberia, which is a part of, or a further back in Russia. It's a big, very very big part of Russia, but there's nothing really there. And they took Estonian people who were again smart, intellectual, rich, and they took them there because then it would be easier to control the society or Estonian people. And
Mm,
Estonia wasn't special. The Russian regime did this in all the countries that, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, bunch of others. So what happened to my family? What my family, part of my family had to escape to Australia and Canada. Both, you are in Canada, the land of the
I
free. I,
am,
I
yeah.
would say most of the time.
Most of, oh,
we
geez.
can
Yeah,
get we can
anyways,
get into that.
moving on, moving on.
But like from that time, Second World War, that was freedom for at least my people, my family. They
Right.
escaped there and they escaped to Australia, some parts of it, and those parts who didn't manage to escape to Australia, because my family, lineage was quite successful. They were successful farmers. They were successful, like salespeople, I guess. Like they had stores, whatever. Not super important
Yeah.
right now, but basically they
Biz
had
business people.
business people. So they had to hide their identities basically to make something of
Ooh.
themselves that they were not. So that really, really freaking left a big imprint on myself, and I noticed that imprint on my family as well. Like almost like having to hide who we really are, and that to me, when I finally understood it, and I obviously went to my grandparents and other relatives to get those stories and to understand these stories and to understand this history of my family on a very deep level. Started understanding that I'm also hiding myself, and how am I hiding the truth of who I am, and all of these spiritual things that I'm experiencing, all this astrology, and all of these, I'm a man doing work that is usually, let's say, more often than not in society is done by women. And I'm you
Hmm.
know I'm bringing a masculine element to it, but it's still more like a feminine industry. So again, having to hide that and having shame around that, and having, basically having to hide who I am, and now this time not from, the Russians or the army, but repeating the pattern still of hiding who I truly am, as a human
Right.
being. So I think that's
Well,
the biggest one.
the hiding. Well, good job. Well done.
Getting better.
You're doing it. Wow.
Do you have any similar cases, or like that you have done or worked through? Because you have been brought up in Canada, which is
Mhm.
let's say it's been more of a free people.
Yeah, I've definitely had more of a, I would say, a free experience with life. I was raised in the Catholic Church,
Okay, so
so
that's not free at all.
that's kind of not free. I would say like the biggest things were like growing up as a girl in my family. I could do everything that my male cousins could do, and I was the oldest. So I kind of thought, I should get to run the motor on the rowboat or whatever, right?
Mm.
And it was never that. It was always my cousin because he was a boy.
Oh boy.
And it was subtle. I didn't even notice it until memories later, right? Looking at that, why do I not, do certain things? And it was like, oh. And I remember asking, I won't say who, but one of my relatives. And one of my relatives, I was like, I think I was like 6 or 7. Like we were learning about Canada and about prime ministers and all this stuff. And I was like, well, why hasn't there been a woman prime minister? And that relative was like, oh, well, women don't do that. And, the Catholic Church, why aren't there female priests? Well, women don't do that. Women can't do that. And I was like, weird, but okay. Like, like as a child, it occurred to me as like, it struck me as strange. Like,
Obviously.
why is it always men up here? And then like the altar boys were always boys. And like, I want, when you're a kid, you just want to do the exciting thing. Like, I didn't care about church necessarily, but I was like, I want to carry that thing up to the front, like I
Hmm.
want to do that job, but it was always given to boys. So that was one thing, like probably limitations on that. And then I think major like shame, like of being a girl then, right? Because it was like, well, then I'm ashamed of like my sins. One of the first things that you do when you're in church as a child is like you have like your first confession, and it's like a thing, like you go into this thing with the priest, and you tell him your sins. It's like a 5 or 6 year old. So immediately, and you learn, and because I was in the school, I was in a Catholic school, so it was like we had a religion class and we had talked about this. Everyone's a sinner, blah 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 blah. And I was like, I don't know, I haven't really done anything like bad. And so I went in there, and technically my first ish sin would be to lie to a priest because I made up my sin. It's like I made up my confession. I was like, well, I gotta say something, and I can't remember anything bad I've done. So I was in there and I was like, I lied to my mom. and then and then the priest talks to you. I don't remember what he said, but I remember, so then you get a penance. So your penance could be anything, whatever the priest says. So it could be like 10 Hail Mary prayers or 10 Our Father prayers or whatever. And so I'm like, all right, give me a couple Hail Marys, like let's go. And he's like, he's like, okay, for penance, you have to go apologize to your mom and tell her what you lied about and and apologize. And in my little 6-year-old brain, I was like, shit, like this lie just got a lot deeper. I was like, I'm getting myself into something here. And so then now I have to, well, I got to do what the priest says, right? Like authority, all that. And I'm like, Mom, I lied to you. And then I had to lie about what I lied about. And it just snowballed, right? And I just remember thinking, like, this is really dumb. So I think the biggest thing was like just in general shame and making myself smaller, and always thinking that I'm doing something wrong. Like anytime, like, oh, I get a phone call or someone wants to talk to me, it's like, oh my God, what have I done wrong? And like I've really had to work on catching that voice and going, nothing. Nothing. Do you operate from being a dick? No, you don't. You operate from being a good person in like, 90% of the time, if I can, I'm always trying to do my best and come from a good place.
That's insane, the amount of control. But it just, what are you doing the 10% of the time?
No comment. I plead the fifth. No, oh, maybe it's 99% and there's a 1% that's a jealous bitch.
That's honesty right there. I'm glad.
Talked about the jealousy here. Look, I'm going red shit.
I mean, I think it's important to understand that when you're jealous, you are jealous. It's okay. It's a lot better than suffocating and suppressing it. Then it turns into a problem, actually.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, sometimes I can be jealous.
Good. So, guys, if you're listening, it's okay to be jealous, but be aware of your jealousy, and
Yeah,
it's a
catch
matter
it.
of working with it as well. It's not about again, like I said, suppressing it. If you suppress it, it starts to leak out onto weird spaces. But if you are aware of it, you can transmute it and transform it and do something else with it.
Which kind of, I think, is a fabulous segue into into some other topics that we're looking at today.
Are we going with the weekly now, or what are we
Do you
doing?
want to?
I think
Yeah.
we probably should, look at it a little bit.
So basically, the week we're looking at coming up here is the 8th of May to the 14th of May. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do.
What
Let's
are
do.
what's the weather like?
I
What's the
mean,
space weather?
the biggest thing we're building up right now in that week is actually happening on the 16th, so it's a little bit of a,
Oh,
but it's a big event, and I think we should mention it a little bit, and then maybe in the next week's episode, maybe go more deeper into it. So
yeah.
we're in eclipse season, like we mentioned a couple of episodes ago, but now it's a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio. So that raises the stakes, that raises the intensity, I would say, a lot. Because right now we're recording
Oh,
this
wow.
podcast and we're having like a lunar eclipse or sorry,
Yeah.
we're having a
Solar.
solar,
Solar. We already went through this.
we have a solar eclipse in the sign of Taurus right now, and the moon is still a best place for Taurus to be in, and it's a little bit of a more grounded energy. Although with Uranus, okay, still, but now as we build up to the Scorpio lunar eclipse, so Scorpio energy, we must understand the Scorpio sign and the energy to really understand what is going on with this, and Scorpio is so deep, and so Scorpio is so
Is it
intense.
Scorpio?
It's the
No.
deep. It's, let's say, the deepest of the signs. We can put it there. I mean, there's no debate actually. I would say it is.
I will
Yeah.
I just kind of want to make this about me and feel
Sure.
complimented. So I'm just gonna
Yeah. Give a Do it now because I'm going to go into the negative as well. So,
Oh, damn it. Okay. Okay, go, go, go.
I mean,
Oh, just rip the band-aid off, make it quick.
because the Scorpio is a very deep sign, but the big problem I have with where we are as a society and where we are as humans is we don't really know how to channel and use Scorpionic energy. So when that happens, and it can happen obviously with other signs as well, but especially prudent with or potent with Scorpio, because Scorpio is so freaking deep, like I said, but it's also very, very, I would say, the dark side of Scorpio is maybe we can say even the worst, because it's so manipulative, it is so controlling, it is so holding on to things. And this is one of the reasons why we tend to drift into that negative energy, because we don't know how to channel and manage the depth of Scorpio energy. So what I mean by depth is it is the depth of emotional power, like the emotional power, and having control. And well, control is maybe a little bit of a bad word, but having mastery over your emotions and feelings and that internal deep life. This is the highest, the freaking highest form of Scorpionic energy. And in my mind, this is where we should go with it, and we should master, and we should literally go deeper, because in that depth, it's very the jewels, the juice that can be uncovered from that is tremendous. Now, what very often happens, and right now is happening constantly, is because we don't know how to manage that depth, all of that, let's say all pain, trauma, wounding, all of that sexual trauma, all of that is Scorpio, the dark side of Scorpio as well, control, manipulation. So when a person doesn't manage or know the depth of their emotions and doesn't dare to go into their pain, what do they do instead? They go into that other side, the dark side. They start to control the situation. They start to control and manipulate other people. They start to put, let's say, the Scorpionic
Well,
sting everywhere.
if I may speak to the Scorpio disposition, let's say. In my experience, when I was acting from these low points, it was like as a Scorpio, so Scorpio ascendant, it's like I can see. So if I'm going to come from this place of pain, right? I'm coming as an example. I'm hurt. I am able to see everybody else's weak points. I'm able to see all the emotional depth of other people, and I am able to sting those places in a way that will cause detrimental harm. And, hey, not super proud of that. Not somewhere I come from very often these days. Having said that, I would say that's likely, why a Scorpio is able to do that, because you can see it. You can see pretty much everything.
And I want to say a lot of Scorpios, if you're out there and listening and you feel triggered by it, and you have a lot of Scorpionic energy NATO, it's not that anybody's bad, but many times the Scorpio person has experienced a lot of pain and trauma and difficult situations in their life. And now this is the way, the mastery of the Scorpio is to come out of that on top. Not to control, not to manipulate, but to master, understand, go deeper with their emotions, learn about psychology, learn about astrology, learn about all these deep things we have. And then once they're in that deeper space, start transforming and helping others as well. That's the way of the Scorpio. But a lot of Scorpios get into a very defensive position with this, because some of the times the transformation and intensity gets so big and so much, they tend to hold
Well,
on
and
to things.
imagine never being told that all of these things you're going through are for your growth and to transform it, right? Some people never have a teacher. Some people never, ever, ever learn that. So it's like, I feel grateful for my journey of having actual teachers and people to inspire me to do better, people to help me to call to call me to rise higher, you know, rather than always just being stuck in this negative loop of being in the defense. People who have been in my life that have created safe space for me, allowed me to be exactly who I am. And in that space is where I've found the most positive growth. So I really, nowadays I very much try to be that for other people. Like I hold a level of energy or a level of integrity. And if you're not matching that, well, I'm going to ask you to match that, or sayonara. Peace.
Okay. So basically, we're building up
Can
to that lunar
sorry,
eclipse.
can I ask one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
I want to ask, because I told, what is the archetype of Scorpio? Like what's,
I would say, the highest is the magician, and let's say the magician, and the lowest is the, what is the lowest of the, like not the witch, but what's the negative of the magician?
I don't know.
Like the dark sorcerer. Like the dark
Okay.
sorcerer is the negative side,
Like
I
a
would say.
like a black magic
Black
wizard type
magic
of a
wizard type.
person.
Like, let's say
Yeah.
Gandalf the White would be, if you're into Lord of the Rings, which I am, super. It's
Which
amazing.
all of us are, and if you're not, then that's okay. We'll sit down and watch the extended version.
Exactly. But anyway, it's a beautiful story, and I think Gandalf is literally the white. Gandalf is the, let's say, highest transformation of Scorpionic energy, and the
Huh.
living of it, and Saruman maybe is the dark side of Scorpio.
Is the listening to the voices in the head and the blah, blah, blah
Hmm.
stories. Okay, I like that. So lunar eclipse
Full moon
in
lunar eclipse in
Scorpio,
Scorpio, because
full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio. That's freaking loaded. Damn.
that's freaking loaded, and it's very hard aspect. Let's say one aspect is very hard. We have some support here, but the point I'm making is, we're going to feel it. Even from start of the week, we're going to be. The intent is, it's going to build up to it, build up to
Mm-hmm.
it, build up to it, and you're listening to this on the what is it, 8th. It's happening on the 16th, but you're most likely going to feel that intensity going into deeper space, wanting to be in private, transforming. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot about letting go and not wanting to let go. This full moon lunar eclipse.
Being in private is like probably my biggest, like, it's like all of a sudden I will just cut off all contact with anyone and I will be alone. And then I will come back to all of my relationships like nothing happened.
Because you had to
Never,
go.
sorry about that. Yeah, I just needed to not talk to anyone for like 2 weeks.
It's a very
So if you,
scorpionic thing, and you have a Cancer anyway, so
Mhm.
you have and Pisces. You have double Pisces. I mean, I'm even. I know the other things in your chart, so I know kind of like why you're in the public eye as well. But if you see somebody with those things, you're like, how are you not living in a hole or some remote island somewhere? It's like a hobbit hole, something like that.
Trust me, I would if the universe wasn't like, hey, lady, start talking. That's where it would be.
But you can use that hole, and
Yeah,
to go into it and transform, and then come back and share those discoveries with the other people, the public.
that's exactly it. That's pretty much exactly it. When I go into the hole, it's not because I don't love anyone or because I'm like, fuck the world. It's like I literally just need to go so deep. I don't think I could ever fully get across how it feels.
That's why it's so deep. It's very deep. But please keep giving it a go. That's important to unravel these mysteries. And if you're out there and you have that scorpionic deep energy and maybe nobody understands you, you feel like nobody gets you, there are people who get you, and it's important
Mm-hmm.
to reveal some of these stories as well. People will be served by them. As scary it is for
Or,
you, I know Scorpios don't really like to, a lot of Scorpios don't really like to share publicly and openly because they've been hurt so much before and they need that security of trust building before, and just know that they're going to be in a place of total trust, and that trust is going to be sacred to them or the other person as well. Yes, that is the beginning, but afterwards you're going to have to, if you want to do some sort of work outside, you need to be stronger and be okay with people
mm-hmm.
maybe saying those meaner things to you as well.
But I think also like I have created a life where I have the friendships that can withstand that, and that will be when I do come out and say nothing, they look at me and they're like, you've changed. Okay. Let's move on. It's like never someone, how dare you not talk to, it's like the friendships in my life do not require that much maintenance.
Awesome.
Should we go into the energy of the week though? Like
Let's do it.
perhaps. So, energy, we're building up to the lunar eclipse. Is there anything else astrologically that's going on in the week?
I mean, there's just a lot,
I mean,
obviously,
okay, so
but
we got a Friday the 13th coming up, which is to me, that's fucking awesome. Like, that is sick. That is primo awesome energy.
well, Mercury is going retrograde, Jupiter is going into Aries, so there's so much going on astrologically, so many changes, so many shifts. We talked about Mercury retrograde, I think, in the last podcast more, but
When's
Jupiter
that?
in Aries.
When was Mercury retrograde again?
Like it starts, let's say, from the third, fourth. You can put dates in third, 4th of May,
Oh,
but okay. So it's a little bit
hmm.
before. So we're already in Mercury retrograde. So now Jupiter is moving into Aries as well. So that's a big shift as well because Jupiter is a big, big influence of where our
Is
attention goes.
isn't Jupiter a fire planet?
Yes, we can
What's
say
the
that.
what's the what's the what does Jupiter
Ruler
rule?
rules Sagittarius and also traditionally
Sag.
Pisces as well.
Ah, right. Okay. Always need these little reminders.
That's,
Like,
I mean, it's a bit of a week, I would say. Maybe the main event is the Jupiter in Aries. We can say the main thing,
what date
but
is that?
10th, 11th, 10th,
10th, 11th.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I'm just like looking at the messages that came through. Hmm.
But Jupiter is expansive influence. It expands, touch everything it touches. So wherever Aries in your natal chart, that's what it's going to expand. That's where it's going to bring lucky opportunities. Sometimes when it's a
Oh,
more difficult house, it can expand the difficulties as well and then bring the solutions to it. But in general, Jupiter still, in the end, will bring you good, mostly good things.
Am I sensing a rapid fire?
We can do a rapid fire, I guess,
Can we do it, please?
right
Jupiter and
now.
Aries, rapid fire for all the signs.
So Jupiter in Aries, Jupiter will be in Aries. The first stint of Jupiter in Aries basically is going to be from now till autumn, was like October something. Um, and then it's going to go, or is it July? Freaking July. No, October, sorry. And then it's going to go back into Pisces for a little while, and then again back into Aries um, to finish that Aries transit. But let's focus on where it can help your life. So let's start this time with Pisces, I guess. Let's do it backwards, rapid fire.
Yay!
So so it's going to be a little confusing for me. But Pisces, so for Pisces, this is good news for you if you're financially interested in life. And this is going, Jupiter is going to go into the second house. So a lot of what it's going to do for you is expand your finances, expand your investments. But the thing is, you're also mostly going to buy, in there's going to be opportunities to invest your money. So that means money's going to go out, but usually it brings, good things in. So generally, expansion
Good.
of your finances. For Aquarius, it's the third house. So a lot of small trips for you guys, a lot of online communications, siblings, communication with siblings, good, better, more working in groups, online groups, teams, and business activities increasing. For Aquarius, it's the fourth house. Oh, sorry, Capricorn. We're Capricorn. So Capricorn, it's the fourth house. So a move can be possible depending on if it touches your IC as well, but also, sometimes relocation, sometimes good communication with family. We can also say that emotionally, maybe it's even one of the best things. Emotionally, it can enhance your experience. It can make you feel a lot happier in life, a lot safer, a lot, just finding happiness in general in life. It's a good transit for that. And then also purchase a home or real estate.
Nice.
I think that's potent for both Pisces and Capricorns.
Let's fucking go.
And Sagittarius, for you, it's in the fifth house, so children maybe, but expansion with children, getting children, giving birth at times, but
Just getting them.
just getting them
Here you
from
go.
somewhere. But expansion with romantic
Where do
partners as well.
babies come from? No, just kidding.
Let's do that podcast as well. But yeah, expansion of business, riskier investment, romantic partners, personal business hobbies. Good things happening there. Opportunities coming your way. So for Scorpios, it's happening in the sixth house. So the sixth house, as you remember, maybe is a bit of a difficult house. So this is where I need to a little bit warn the Scorpios. It can increase work, which is very often the case. And that's a good thing. It also expands usually the financial matters. But maybe the negative side with the sixth house, it can, make the everyday duties very, very, like, a lot to take, and also increase arguments. But the good thing with Jupiter and arguments in the sixth house, it's almost like it gives you the arguments, but it also helps to resolve the arguments. And maybe one other negative thing in the sixth house, it's overdoing it with food and addictions. Like Jupiter in the sixth house is like, just like can justify addictions. It's like, I'm doing this doobie for the good of God and humanity. So be careful. Be careful. I mean, it's literally like that. It messes with the
I'm
mind.
doing it. No judgment. You do you.
I, like, I can't recommend this at all. So guys, be careful with it. Don't do drugs if possible. For Libras, it's the seventh house. So partnerships, public appearance to the, you know, public eye. It's a very public house. Increase of partnerships, even marriage possible for some of you, and let's say increasing of visibility, signing more contracts, more deals. Definitely good opportunities there. There, if let's say for example, a lot of Libras are salesmen, a lot of Libras are um,
Business owners,
this
entrepreneurs.
definitely. So for you, it should be a pretty darn good transit. You know, guys, I want to just kind of preface this with the general overall energies are quite difficult right now. So even though Jupiter will bring us good things, you know, keep your feet on the ground and don't say, "Oh, Jupiter didn't bring me the things you promised." Can bring you the light, let's say a smaller dosage of things, but it will bring you something at least in these areas. So for Virgos, it's the eighth house, another difficult house. Expansion of can expand first the transformation and crisis and even painful wounds from childhood, but it also helps to resolve these and helps to, let's say, see deeper, and you bring the right healers, bring the right teachers, because Jupiter is also higher healing and let's say mentor figures to heal those matters as well. But Jupiter, from a positive side, it can bring in resources from others, clients, and the resources of your partner can increase. And just, you know, deep seeing of esoteric matters and seeing deeply into the other realms is possible here as well. I think the biggest part is resources coming from others and releasing and healing of wounds that can be painful at first. For Leos, it's the ninth house, so, you know, expansion of their belief systems and worldview, and having a bit of an optimistic or more optimistic side of the future, and also, you know, bringing in the right teachers, bringing the right mentors. If you're already in a teaching role, Leo, it will expand your teaching role as well, and it's also possible to have, you know, courses, webinars to teach yourself, but also to have those right courses, webinars, certifications, and you're doing them, you're expanding through them. Whatever, Cancer. So for Cancers, it's a 10th house, expansion of career, expansion of the social status. So good things happening in your career, social status, and business. And what else? You know, usually it also helps with the relationship with one of the parents, usually the father or the bosses, if you have bosses. For what are we at? Gemini. So Gemini maybe have it the best in a way, because Gemini will have Jupiter in the 11th house, which is, from a Western astrology point of view, it's the best house for Jupiter. And it's the house of gains, so it can bring financial gains, economic gains. If you're in a place where bonuses are valid in your job or whatever, you can receive a boost, definitely through some bonus or expansion of contacts, networks, friends, more contacts, social circles, right contacts, right time, and
Nice.
ability to go towards your dreams and goals, and you believe that you can achieve them. And
That's freaking neat.
and for Taurus, I guess, for Taurus, it's an interesting one because it's happening in their 12th house. And the 12th house is a bit of a hidden house, but Jupiter can bring here a liberation and healing from subconscious patterns, a lot of spiritual experiences, even opportunities to rest, go to travel, go, faraway lands. You can expand that. And, it's the house of bed pleasures, so more sex for you guys, hopefully. And and for Aries themselves, it's happening in your sign, so expansion all over the place, and the right things, the lucky opportunities coming your way, and right mentors. It's almost like you're directed again towards the right path, and right things come your way. Maybe the only negative thing here is to watch with the weight. A little bit can gain some weight if it's on the ascendant or in the body. It just can expand the body, but use the Aries energy. We will have a lot of Aries energy now in the coming. Mars will also go into Aries soonish, so use it to build muscle rather than take on weight. That's it.
Boom. There you have it. I'm glad for a lot of that. Sounds awesome. Poor Virgos.
I mean,
don't get in your head too much there, Virgo friends.
It's like it's a mix and match with the eighth house, because I have Jupiter in the eighth house natally by Placidus house sign system. And it's a bit of a blessing and a curse, definitely, at times, but there are the connection, because by whole sign it's in my ninth house, so it works, I see, in both ways in both houses, and it does open up a lot of connection to those other realms, deeper realms. You're able to understand the psychology and deep wounds that people have, because you've had a lot of them and you've healed a lot of them as well. So it's.
Do you think it also has is that the constant pull towards learning?
When it's in the ninth house, I would say yes.
Ninth? Okay.
Ninth is more like higher wisdom and higher learning, but eighth house, if it's there, it's like learning about esoteric realms and astrology and tarot and sexuality,
okay,
and type of like tantra and those things. You can learn a lot about those. But I just want to say the date. So Jupiter is going to be what I just said is valid for from the May to end of October, and then again we're going to talk about Jupiter in Aries in this end of December 2022.
Nice. Because it's going to go back into Pisces.
It's going to finish its stint in Pisces during November and December 2022.
Man. Oh, I just feel like we're in for it. The 8th guidance energy was opal.
That's an interesting one.
Opal, yeah, like the gemstone. And I think because one of my favorite thing about rocks and crystals and stuff are the ones that have that shine, like that opal shine, like moonstone and labradorite, and those ones that have like the flash. And I'm pretty sure opals have that.
Can't remember.
I don't know. I'm not a geologist.
I really like stones and I collect them, but I don't know them by heart by any means.
Yeah. Anyways, I think it's just like opals, like that flash, that it's just like the energy of I don't know what is the energy of opal? What is the stuff behind it? I came unprepared. But yeah, no, that's just what I see more as like like think dragon scale, like the
Mm,
magical behind it, that flash, that just magical in a way. I don't know.
magic.
I'm gonna look it up right freaking now.
We're in a magical day on the 8th.
I think so, yeah. Uh, oh, it amplifies.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's what it says here, anyways. Freedom and independence enhances cosmic consciousness. Hey.
That's what we're all about. That's our
Uh-huh.
stone. That's
Uh-huh.
our stone.
That's like pretty much our like the whole thing.
That should be like the Cosmic Adults official like
The
podcast
official
stone. Like opal, everything opal. It's like expansion.
right freaking on. I like that. I'm yeah, I'm on board. And then the ninth. Do you have anything to say?
Just go ahead. I think I've said plenty with this.
Resources for the ninth.
Mm.
And I don't want to say a lack or an abundance. I want to say an inventory. Have a look at what you have, figure out what you need, have a balance of what you have and what you need.
This is a big theme currently that we're in, and this Mercury retrograde is a really good time to do it.
Mm.
And well, I think I said the Mercury retrograde dates wrong. I think I said the
Uh,
3rd or 4th, and it's actually the 10th and 11th. Yep, 10th, 11th.
oh my.
So we're having two
Then
events.
I should go get my sister got me. I was gonna wear my Mercury's in retrograde shirt to do the Mercury in retrograde. My sister got it for me for my birthday, a shirt that says Mercury's retrograde.
That's awesome.
And I wanted to wear it.
That's awesome.
Fine, it's all good. I will let it go.
So we're
Anyways, the
having
10th and 11th.
10th and 11th, quite big days, you know, Jupiter moving into Aries and Mercury going retrograde. Um,
Damn, yeah, we're gonna get freaking say what you mean what you say. That's all I can say.
it's a lot of this Mercury retrograde is a lot about resources as well, like you said, about the
Is
ninth
it?
or 10th and I think ninth. You said, yeah, it's a lot about because it's
The
going to
ninth.
back into Taurus. So we're going to be
Mm.
looking at those financial, practical, earthly resources that we have
Yeah.
a
It's like
lot.
look at your money, look at your food, look at your like it's like just take an inventory, whether it's on paper, like what do you need? Do you need like a cabinet to store stuff? Do you need shelf, like what do you actually need? What are the things that you've been putting off for a while to buy? What are the things that you've been putting off for a while to sell? Like some stuff you really don't need and maybe someone else can benefit from too. Like are your guides trying to bring you towards something? I think there's a lot of that on the ninth, or at least an initiation of it. And then moving into the 10th, for me, that's Tuesday. For Canadians, that's Tuesday.
A
Canadian, eh? How much did you love that one video that I sent you?
a lot. I appreciate it
Yeah,
a lot. It's a very Canadian thing. I didn't, you know, I tend to grasp the English language pretty well, and I didn't
yeah.
understand like I think 95% of what he was saying.
So basically, what he was saying is he went to the liquor store and he ended up with a 24 pack of beer, and then he went to go play hockey. He didn't want a Mickey, which is a smaller one, and then a 2-4 is a 24 case of beer.
Canadians.
And a 26 are Or 2.6 is a bigger bottle of alcohol.
Is maple syrup still a big thing there?
Oh yeah, we bathe in it.
Hmm. It's morning, breakfast, lunch.
Yeah. Tablespoon to stay healthy.
God, I love stereotypes. I just love stereotypes. It's so funny.
No, it's not. It's just like if you're having pancakes, you probably have maple syrup. It's like anywhere else. No one is like obsessed with maple syrup. Well, maybe some people are, I don't know. There's like one thing that people do that I think is really cool is like you like boil maple syrup to make it like
Mm.
thicker, and then you have snow and you pour it in the snow, and then you take like a popsicle stick and you like roll the popsicle stick on it, so then you have like a maple syrup lollipop kind of thing.
Mm. That sounds
It's kind of a
pretty
French,
cool.
it's like a French thing to do, I think, or
Oh,
like
French Canadian,
fake
eh?
fake French, not real French, Canadian French. I hope I offend people with that.
God, there's so much going on there. Like Canadian, French,
Oh, I can't even like, because Canada's weird. Like, okay, so in like my opinion, I'll just segue into this whole thing since it's coming up. Um, so you've got Eastern Canada and you've got Western Canada, and basically there's like a line around what is it, Manitoba, where Western Canada is like one Manitoba to BC, BC to Manitoba. And then Eastern Canada is like the rest of it, Ontario, Quebec, all
Quebec.
that other stuff.
The French Canadians.
The fake French, yeah. And they want to separate from Canada altogether. And everyone's like, okay, go. Like, go. Have fun. And then we got like Newfoundland, PEI, all the Maritimes, like those places. So over in Eastern Canada, it's essentially, I mean, and politically things have changed. Like that, I mean, I think we can all see that. Apparently, freedom is like a strange right wing, far right concept now. Okay, don't get triggered. We're not triggered. We're just talking. It's fine. Eastern Canada is much more liberal, much more like it's a totally different vibe from Western Canada. Western Canada is like Alberta oil,
It's like,
logging, like that type of industry, whereas Ontario, Toronto, these type of places are more like, I think steel is the main industry. And I'm not an expert, so I'm probably not someone that should really be talking about this, but in my experience, basically Western Canada is a lot more conservative, a lot more like oil and gas and
traditional
our
values.
natural resources and selling that and being independent versus the other side of Canada is like, well, essentially Alberta funds all of Canada. And so, government spending and everything is coming out of Alberta oil. I'm speaking very generally here.
Hmm.
And yet they want to shut down all the oil and all the pipelines and everything for environmental reasons, which I get. And also, how are we going to survive as a country if we don't have resources and use our natural resources? Makes no freaking sense to me. And like, obviously, let's do it in a good way where we don't want to be like pillaging the earth, but the earth is here supporting us, giving us all of the stuff,
Yeah.
I don't remember what my initial point was about. We're talking about maple syrup,
Doing the 10th, what's the word? Maple syrup.
but the vibe, the vibe of Canada is definitely changing. It's strange, and I do not recognize this country anymore. The 10th is infinite.
Like that.
Which I thought, let's go. Yeah. Do it. And I think the infinite Yes, and finding out where your limits are. If you think of infinity and it doesn't fucking blow your mind, then you have a lot of limits in your life.
Yeah. Hmm.
And this is Mercury retrograde too. So like here we go. And then the 11th is Be You, which I thought was so interesting when you were talking, I think, about Gemini or one of the signs, because it was like something about the self. I can't remember, but it
Aries.
was Aries. Yeah. It's like Be You. And I think that there's this sense of self discovery slash exploration and unapologetically being who you are. There's a difference between like, oh, I know who I am and I'm this, okay. We have this like evolution that we go on. And also there's this like as soon when you start to really go into like who you actually are and who you're experiencing life as behind these eyes, it's like freaking intense. And that person is so like freaking pure.
Hmm.
In the book that I'm reading, it talks about the ego as being like the curious child, like who we are as children, and then the altered ego being any layers on top of that, essentially distorting you from source.
I think it's a very accurate depiction. I would even call it like a scared ego, or like a
Mm-hmm.
very fear-based ego.
Yeah. It's like where the purity has been altered or distorted
Mhm.
by circumstance or by fate, divine, the things that the divine timing things, whatever that is. One of my favorite things I think that you've ever said was like, it was something about, we were talking about connecting with something, with someone or something like that. And you were like, yes, it seems like they've been humbled by life and pain. Sure. I was like, that's officially my favorite thing in the world.
This is, I think maybe it's because we're going into that eclipse, so maybe it's a good segue, a little bit to that
Mm-hmm.
topic. I think we were talking about, our new friends at Divine Podcast, or Divine,
The Soul Connection duo.
the Soul Connection duo, and
Yes, our
I
new
listened,
friends over there.
I listened to one of their podcasts, and one of the stories they shared there was quite intense and quite painful. But if a person is able to share that and live their life and do things and create things and make things in life, that means that they're humbled by pain in life, but they're not destroyed by pain in life. So that
Mm,
means the reality or the realness of who a person really is more likely to be there. So to me, it always brings up, okay, I most likely can trust this person, or at least their opening to trust this person is there, and I can do and make and create things and be in connection with them more likely or more highly possible. So that's one of the things I definitely look at in a person. If they've been humbled, and if pain and life have humbled them, and if they have made corrections, and if they have learned from that pain and humbling,
mm,
that's also important, because
right.
not a lot of people manage to learn from it. Just a little tiny segue into What is it, 12th already?
into the 12th. Yeah. And the guidance that was coming through is limitless. So really interesting that it's tying in with on the 10th, it's infinite. And then the 12th is limitless. The universe is really trying to get us to see more, open up, see bigger, and really become that true self. The I am.
I think it ties in quite nicely with astrology because that is what Jupiter in Aries will start to do for a longer period, and also in a shorter period, Jupiter Mercury in a nice little sextile also will help us expand into that energy.
I love that. Have you watched that movie, Limitless?
I have.
I think that's like one of my top favorite movies for sure. Because I
Mm.
always think about like at the end where he has like created his brain to be that way, like just normally.
Mhm.
Because like I have a belief that if we are to open up our minds, like to God or to source or whatever, that we will have all of that knowledge just streaming through in our minds. Like we can all be like that, but we don't have to take a pill for it.
I think the opportunity is there. Just I have the earthliness in me, or the practical Saturnness in me is like, yeah, but it's going to take a while or a little bit of time at least. Because I'll give always when a lot of Pisces people say
Ding 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 ding.
say like everything is possible, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, it is. But it's like I want to see somebody do it. I really want to see. I at least want to see some proof of a person using so much of that capacity. Then I'm like, okay. So if that person is able to do it and able to find that way, okay, now we can really do it. You know.
So what if I'm the person that does it?
Very good. I would be amazed. I would be, teach me more, tell me
Oh
more,
yeah,
teach me more.
you got it.
Do it.
Um, do it. I still haven't watched it.
Watch.
I'm so
Watch.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You know what I've been watching actually? I just like all of a sudden I was like, I need to watch it. All the Jason Bourne movies.
Hmm. It's a
I
good movies.
freaking love them. I'm like, what? I'm like, how have I? But then it was like, as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, I have seen parts of this before. I think probably like, back in the day when there was like one TV in the house and I was like walking by. Um, yeah, really loving it. His brain is like that, but he uses it as to be like, a bad dude, which
Jason.
he doesn't want to be, but when he's
Well,
like under the control of whatever, then he's like that unlimited in his brain, right?
we're talking about the same movies. Jason Bourne.
Because he's a highly skilled assassin, right?
Yeah, but he's also fighting against a control organization. So I wouldn't put him as a bad person
But like
necessarily.
prior to the
Prior. Okay,
amnesia, he
prior. Okay.
was.
Okay. Okay.
But
Then
he
I would give
wasn't
him.
like, I think he always had it in his heart to not be that way,
Exactly.
which is why he was able to fight it.
Have you watched the? It seems like you haven't watched the last ones, or.
I have not. I'm on the ultimatum right now, so no spoilers.
Mhm.
I could only watch half of it last night because I was like, you know, old and falling
You're
asleep.
old and can't do long
No.
nights.
No. Which is like so sad because I used to, I think it'll come back eventually, but I used to be able to do an all-nighter and be fine the next day. Now I'm like, no, not a chance.
No.
Okay, which is interesting because now we're moving into the 13th, Friday the 13th. Cosmic guidance is stand your ground. Could be coming through a little bit on the personal side for me because one of the things that's been coming up a lot in my life lately, and it's the 30th of April today that we're recording this. So, eclipse that's bringing me right now is situations where I have to go, no, I'm not in the wrong, and I'm sorry you feel that way. And I'm actually sitting in, what's gone on and looking at it objectively and going, no, I will not be controlled. I will not be guilted. I will not, you literally have no power over me, and I'm going to stand in that.
Had a few similar experiences. So lately, I think in the last 2 months. So I think
Mm.
it really hit me, and I think this guidance is extremely important to understand because that can also be distorted as a spiritual bypass. But if you're, let's say, if you're willing and aware and in present moment, in your body, in your consciousness, in your energy, that understanding of like I'm because when there is a situation where you're, let's say, challenging somebody, or maybe there's a emotional reaction or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
the manipulation can come from the other side that might trigger, something inside of you, old wound, old pain, and then like the initial reaction of that wound is to, give in or say like, okay, wherever we'll cover this up, or yeah, you're right. But if you really get away from that wound, or not even get away, feel into that, and then after that, the clarity arrives of like, okay, so I'm actually very clear. I understand the situation, and whatever they're saying about bad things about me, these are actually not true, and I know what I
Mm-hmm.
did, and this is the place where you can, I think, stand your ground, and where I have had
Yeah.
to do that as well.
Yeah, especially when you know that you're not coming from harmful intentions and you know that you're coming from a good place, and it becomes very clear how the other person is distorting things
Hmm.
and altering the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, just
Yeah,
make sure you're not
stand you.
make sure you're not distorting the truth yourself, and stand your ground after
Yes,
after that.
true. I was thinking of a Taurus specifically. Yeah, it's like not being stubborn for the sake of being stubborn,
Hmm.
just being solid in who you are.
And again,
I
that's
think
the
is
highest form of Taurus energy, because being
mm,
stubborn, I would say, being stubborn for the sake of being stubborn is maybe the lower form of the Taurus energy, and then
right.
again, the highest is like, I'm stubborn and I'm
Yeah.
standing your ground because I know I'm in there. Right.
Imagine how much good stuff they prevent from themselves having.
Taurus.
They prevent themselves from having. No, I will not move ever in my life. It's like, oi, okay. And then interestingly, moving into this 14th energy, the guidance is future. So I think this is a nod to focusing on what you want future in the future. What do you want your future to look like? Also, I'm sensing some big downloads for people who are ready to receive visions of the future. If you believe in that kind of thing. If you're like a super weirdo, like,
It can be quite kind of, it can be hard, I would say, because
what do you mean?
I'll tell a personal story with this, and
Please.
it was happening. So uh, I don't know. Did we mention that I relocated already in the previous interview?
We didn't, but we will.
So basically, I relocated, and I'm in a different country right now, and it happened recently in the late
So you
last.
moved from Estonia
I moved from
out of
Estonia to
Estonia.
out of Estonia, and you know, guys, most of you know that Estonia is next to Russia, and the funny thing or the weird and annoying thing was I was, you know, not to scare anybody, and not, it's very hard to say that I was seeing it for Estonia or I was tuning into the situation in Ukraine or whatever was happening. But I was constantly seeing, even when I was like literally going to the store or I was talking to my neighbor, talking to my fiance, just walking outside, you know, in Estonia or just even inside. Sometimes closing my eyes, sometimes not closing my eyes. It just kept seeing people burning and people dying. And some of those
Mm.
images, obviously, it's you know hard to take. But I was constantly just you know doing my best to keep a very neutral kind of you know what's the word
Yeah.
I'm neutral way of being with it. And I think
Okay,
that's
that
the
right.
way.
Yeah, I was gonna say that right there is actually key. Because if you're too far one way or too far the other way with any of this thoughts of the future and all of that stuff, you just won't receive the visions because you won't be able to handle it. In so like obviously the universe was very adamant on showing you something because obviously you could handle it and you knew and you have been wanting to be in the future.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there because when I've noticed when I've started to get scared or fearful, you know, the tendency to shut it down comes from
Yeah.
myself. But like the other part, the weird, you know, I want to tell a story because I feel like a story is coming in right now, and it's like with the relocation. I was in during when I was in Estonia and during when we were coming even here when the actual move
Mhm.
was happening, my mind was going constantly. Even leading up to everything, my mind was like, "This is, you know, you're stupid. What are you doing? It's like the craziest thing you ever done. Where are you taking your family? Where are you taking your cats? What are, it's like crazy." But you know,
Yeah.
there was something internally inside of me. It's like you have to go. You have to go now. You have to move. You
Okay.
have to be there.
Okay.
It's like it was crazy, and I was literally, you know, struggling with myself of listening to that guidance and listen. Or the other side was the, let's say, this fearful mind. I was like really scared about, you know, everything, and I, you know, in the end, obviously decided to listen to that other
Yeah.
voice.
I think that that's that right there to understand that and to listen to those two, or, chances are for most people's multiple voices, to listen to the one that's the soft one, the kind, the loving, the truth one that rings true, to find inside of yourself, listening to that voice rather than the, oh my God, you're fucking up, moving, this is going to cost so much money. You'll always find like the fearful excuses or the whatever, and then eventually figuring out whose voice is that, how did that voice get there, because that voice is the altered ego.
I think that's a good way of putting it. It's very hard to listen. I would say, especially when you're doing something, you know, a little bit bigger, like that, you know,
Yeah,
decision is
a
a bit big,
move.
massive decision,
Oh,
and
huge.
it took me a lot of. I'm grateful for all the, you know, friends like Mercedes that I have in my life. You know, Joe Greeland and Cindy Edson. We do a plug for them. We do a meditation each week. Go check that out on foxstreamer.com and healandlearner.com, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, thanks to these people, I'm really, it's easier for me to listen to this voice, because it's kind of like you are doing it, you're sharing those things, you're sharing your experience, so it's a little bit easier for a person like me who was very, very much in the left brain type of world.
Well, it's really easy to hide yourself in the left brain for sure. That's where this conversation all started off. But yeah, no, all of that stuff, like, yeah, and I think that what you're saying there too is huge, because we have spent so much time with this group of people too, where it's like the trust has grown so much. So it's like we're able to actually help each other in that way to, to grow and to provide safe spaces to talk about things that go on like this. But we all also have that desire to, go higher and heal more and grow more and, understand and see things that maybe the average person just never will in their lifetime. We have that desire.
Nice. Final day, 14.
That was it. Was the 14th, the future.
The future, guys.
Joe Dispenza, one of my favorite quotes from him is, the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Right.
And I think,
yeah.
I just think a lot of people are afraid of the future because they think it'll be like the past. And it's just not. If you heal your past, you'll have a completely different future. And actually, a friend of mine is going through something really hard right now. So we're talking a fair amount, and was like, he's like, I just don't want to get to that place that I was. Like, he was in a really dark place in the past. And I was like, well, the way to do that is to change your actions. Like, in the past, how did you get there? What were the ways? And it's like, well, alcohol, drugs, the classic, trio. And I'm like, okay, well, then the way to get out of that is to do different things. To not go there is to do different things. Have a cold shower, change your nervous system. Start going for chiropractor adjustments. Start going for massages. Start eating well, taking care of your body. These are just like 3-dimensional things to talk about. This is like just practical stuff. And then like monitor your thoughts. He's talking about this thought loop that he's in a lot of, like, well, this, and then it goes, it's like 3 thoughts. And it's like, okay, well, counseling, yes. Also, you need to catch those thoughts and get yourself out of there.
I have something that he needs to do. He needs to be with that fear of that, whatever it is happening. He needs to go into that. He needs to visualize it, and he needs to feel that feeling, what is coming up, because that's what he's afraid of. He hasn't still accepted that part.
Figured out the actual fear behind the thoughts.
That as well, but also because he's that as well. But if that's a little bit even lower, I would say deeper. That is also important. But right now, if he's still in that loop is most likely triggered constantly by those thoughts of what will happen if I will get there. I will suffer like that where I was. So that means there's something there in that where I was that he's afraid of. So he needs to go visualize that what he's afraid of, and needs to sink and allow himself to sink into that, or even drop into that feeling. Then he will understand what he is actually deep down afraid of, which is most likely something from childhood. Because otherwise he will keep that loop open, and he will be even either not able to do anything, or just drive himself crazy with that loop.
1,000,001 ways to drive ourselves crazy.
guys. Guys. I don't know. We're done for this week.
Does it feel done? It does feel done. It feels like, okay, well, any other thoughts coming in? Not really. Just pretty much thanks for listening. We are always grateful, and you know what I love the most? The most I love is hearing everyone's thoughts on the things that we've said. I love it. Like, oh, yeah.
I tend to agree, and I appreciate everything we've been hearing from you guys, and keep the thoughts coming, keep the comments coming. If you have suggestions, if you have questions, we'd love to hear questions.
Yeah.
And
Super would love that. So yeah, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, The Cosmic Adults. If you're looking for us, you'll find us.
bye, guys.
Bye.